All right, welcome everyone to this month's edition from Tales from the CTO. My name is Jamie, and this month I've actually, for the last quarter actually I should say, I've been getting a lot of questions, having conversations with folks that are returning to office, contemplating returning to the office, have already returning to office, and even starting to have some decisions to make around real estate, property, how the office is configured to support hybrid work, what changes or investments need to be made, et cetera. The philosophy and the thinking that, the way that we used to do things probably isn't going to necessarily return in its entirety. There's going to be permutations and differences depending on your business. And I think the philosophy that we have is that the way things were done in the past may not actually allow us to reach our true potential. So kind of all in the office, executing in a specific way. I'm not sure that's going to ever come back in the way that it was. So the physical location and where you sit, I think the pandemic proved that, that's not a barrier to being productive and getting work done. That being said, there are absolutely times for coming into the office and doing work. And I think, thematically, what we've been seeing is a shift from the office space from being in the past a productivity space. That's where you used to come to get work done. I think it's now shifting to some either pure collaboration space or a hybrid between productivity and collaboration space. And if that's true, there's a lot of, let's say, dovetail effects that come off of that. One of which is thinking through, what is it or how do we enable impact from anywhere? And what I mean by that is we need to make sure that the playing field stays level. If you're working from home, if you're working from the office, how do we make sure that location is not an advantage? How do we make sure that people in the office and at home have access to all the information they need to do their job? The other major shift, I think, when we talk about actual office space, so physical space, is perhaps making your workspace social by design. How do we help facilitate meaningful relationships when people aren't in the same space, right? And what that might mean is, for example, meeting rooms. Do we need digital whiteboards, or what tools do we need so that people remotely can participate in a meaningful way that to the ones that are in the room? Do we need specific types of cameras or an AV system that allows for that type of integration, if you will, into the conversation in the room? Are there specific microphones that are required for helpful, or what's the, how is the room physically configured based on where the cameras sit? So different considerations. If you think about before, the investments for meeting rooms were primarily around the people in the room, to versus now, I think what the recommendation is, or what our recommendation is designing the room of the people that are not in the room. And that's going to lead to a more richer hybrid work experience, if you will. So when we think about mixed reality, for example, what's a mixed reality or metaverse meeting room going to look like? Are you just going to walk into a blank room with no furniture because we're going to put our headset on and we need to create a canvas, so to speak, for us to enable like an infinite office situation where we can kind of throw up a training room or throw up a meeting room or a conference room. So that stuff I think is still down the road, but for right now, that means access to all the information and tools to do your job, regardless of where you are, i.e. location is not an advantage. And second, the workplace social by design, and what types of investments do we need to make to allow people to create relationships in meeting rooms and in other spaces. If you have any questions or would love to have a conversation about this, would love to, you can reach out to me at cto@ProServeIT.com, and looking forward to continuing the conversation next month.